Good morning. Before we begin our fifth annual Parkwood Institute Research Day, we want to acknowledge that the Lawson Health Research Institute and our partners are situated on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, Lenape, Wendat, and Attawandaron peoples, who have long-standing relationships to the land and region of southwestern Ontario and the City of London. The local First Nation communities of this area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation. In the region, there are 11 First Nation communities and a growing Indigenous urban population. We acknowledge both the historical and ongoing injustices faced by Indigenous peoples in Canada and commit to actively listening to, learning from, and building relationships with our Indigenous allies. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island, North America.
Welcome everyone to our annual research day. This is a very exciting day where you can learn about our three theme areas and their many intersections. I'm Cheryl Forchuk. I am the research chair, the Burrell and Richard Ivy Research Chair for Parkwood Institute Research. And I'm so happy to welcome you here today. And I want to just give you a few highlights of today and of what we've actually accomplished recently within Parkwood Institute. So I'm going to just quickly share this screen. The agenda you can see on the platform. And you can see we have greetings from many people. We have our keynote coming up. We'll have an explanation of our networking and gamification opportunities, a very exciting poster session, a quick break for lunch. You have a choice of the breakout sessions, and then we're going to wrap it up with a panel discussion, including the closing remarks and the various awards and prizes. We could not have a day like today without the input of many different people, and I want to thank all these people for work. Actually, it has not been simply over the past year, but over a 2-year period. We initially planned much of what we're doing today for our event this time last year, and we all know what happened there. This meant that this committee ended up having to work for 2 years and to readjust from an in-person format to the virtual format you see today. I would like to thank Tim Doherty for co-chairing this with me and all the others that you see here who represent the university, different parts of Parkwood Institute research, as well as members from our patient and family councils. As well, we are greatly privileged to have a PIR advisory group overall that also assisted. You heard Kathy Gauthier, our co-chair, and from the Family Council, who gave our welcome and the land acknowledgement. And you can see as well the other people that are represented on this committee. And I'll mention as well the staff, Tarns Sendrick, who is our research facilitator, as well as Cheryl Ruth, who is the administrative assistant, who only joined us this past fall, but had to really get up and running fast to assist with our many different events, and particularly in context of a pandemic, this wasn't easy. In terms of the strategic plan and what is PIR all about? What's Parkwood Institute Research? Why are we together as a whole? I just want to highlight very briefly our vision and our mission and goals. And basically, The Parkwood Institute research, as you can see here in our vision, it's to measurably enhance lives by leading discovery, evaluation, and implementations in rehabilitation or recovery. Although we have different buildings, we have Parkwood Main that focuses largely on our aging population and people who have challenges around mobility. We have the mental health building on the same campus. And as well, we have the Southwest Center, which also deals with mental health challenges, but in a forensic environment. But this concept of rehab and recovery encompasses all of them. It's something that we all do in common. And very much across all these sectors, the issue of mind, body, spirit that you'll see popping up over and over again in our mission, in our goals, encompasses all these areas. So again, with our mission, it's focusing on people with very complex and chronic illnesses and doing research that will empower people, uh, that um, that that will empower people, and we really see these individuals as partners. We want our work to not only encompass the people that are under our direct care, but beyond that. And we do this through strong partnerships and collaborations. Uh, and the other thing to highlight in terms of our goal is really to be a leader in research in relation to this care, rehabilitation, and recovery of people with complex and chronic illnesses. And you can see some of the details here, and you're going to hear more of these details throughout the day when you hear from the different researchers, from the different posters and presentations, how we really live these goals, how every day. And again, going back to our committee structure, I've already mentioned our advisory committee and the planning for the day, but we do a lot of other educational events. We have at the top here our different theme areas. You've heard greetings from the theme areas. We work with our strategic plan, managing space, and various educational events. So it's a lot of work that we do all year, and we have this day to celebrate this coming together. The theme areas listed, and again, you've heard from the different theme leads. Our accomplishments are many in terms of meeting those goals. Right now, we have 210 active studies at Parkwood Institute Research. So what you're hearing today is just a small sampling of that 210. We don't have the space to have 210 presentations, obviously. And some of those active studies have different arms and sub-themes. So research really takes place throughout our whole institute. We have over 60 affiliated scientists and researchers, and our scientists and researchers employ many staff and have many students. Just again, looking at what we have accomplished, right now we actually have, there's $44 million in research funding that is happening at PIR. In the recent period, covering the last calendar year and up to today, we've got 95 recent journal publications with published abstracts, books, and many invited lectures. And as you can imagine, presentations and invited lectures, a number of conferences were canceled over this past year, but the speakers and the researchers from our institute have still been very active and strongly represented. Part of what we do as well is support the next generation of researchers, and we are very grateful to the St. Joseph's Hospital Foundation for assisting in this endeavor through various endowments for fellows and students. Fellows are people that have completed their academic journey in many ways. They have a PhD, for example, but want to gain more practical experience in setting up programs. And so they do a postdoctoral fellowship. other kinds of fellowships as well. And we fund 3 of those. We have studentships, which is primarily for students at the master's level, and travel awards to allow our trainees to present their results, be it virtually or in person. And you can see what we have available to support the students on the side there. During the COVID pandemic, we've really had to pivot. But despite these challenges, it's important to know that our research continues. The fieldwork has adapted incredibly. Staff had to work from home with limited access to labs, but this has not limited people's creativity. And we have several new and timely research projects exploring COVID-19 just as an example. We've also pivoted in how we get together. This picture shows our last annual event, which had 132 attendees. We've got many more than that registered for today virtually. And just so you can see how we have pivoted, this was our pre-pandemic open house with one of our teams and displays. And then we pivoted, and again, we had something about this 137 we seem to often land on. We also had a virtual open house this past year, which again, we had to totally change our format, but we still had a good participation, 70 hours of virtual content. And we pulled together all these different research labs for the community as a whole, for our patients, for our family members, to find out what is Parkwood Research Institute all about. We've also continued to offer educational workshops and presentations. And as again, in the previous year, like in 2019, these were in person. We pivoted last year and into this year to virtual formats. These are just a few of the examples of some of these events. And this is really for the researchers and their staff. We have different audiences for different events. We also have what we call research bites, which are usually around 4 o'clock. These are a couple of examples, these examples when we were in person. And this is more for the general population, for frontline staff, for patients, for family members, and again, tend to be very well attended, and a way for the general population to find out what is it we're up to and what is it we're doing. So thank you again for coming out today. And I want you to really think about these theme areas, this idea of bringing together mind, body, and spirit. The fact that we have these 3 theme areas that are very intertwined and overlapping, and how much stronger we are together and weaving these various perspectives on rehabilitation and recovery together. And in summary, we have a great research program and programs at Parkwood Institute Research, and we hope that you're going to see some of this today and that you'll stick with us throughout the day and take advantage of all these interactions and maybe win a prize at the end of the day. So thank you again, and we will see you throughout the day. Thanks.
Good morning and welcome to Parkwood Institute Research Day. I'm Dr. Arlene McDougall, and I'm the Parkwood Institute Research Mental Health Theme Lead. Well, I'm very excited to share that there's a tremendous amount of really interesting and impactful mental health research being done at Parkwood Institute Research, along with our collaborators and colleagues. And this includes a variety of topics ranging from ecotherapy and eco-spirituality and its clinical application in patients at the Southwest Centre for Forensic Mental Health Care in St. Thomas, to the use of harm reduction strategies in addressing crystal methamphetamine use in the hospital setting, as well as a number of new interventions and solutions focused on youth mental health, and the use of smart technology to support people to live and thrive in the community who are experiencing chronic and persistent mental illness. So a number of great topics. I hope you have an opportunity to engage with these through the poster sessions and the workshop. And I hope you also have an opportunity to network and enjoy the day. Thank you so much on behalf of PIR Mental Health. Welcome and thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Parkwood Institute Research Day. My name is Jeff Weiler. I am the coordinator for the Gray Center for Mobility and Activity, and it's my pleasure to share with you the accomplishments and the initiatives within PIR's Mobility and Activity theme that were achieved in 2020. So the Mobility and Activity theme is comprised of Lawson researchers who are housed primarily here at Parkwood Institute, as well as a number of researchers from Western University. The common theme between these different researchers is that they are all interested in improving the mobility outcomes of healthy individuals as well as patients, and many of the patients that we serve here at Parkwood. Now, one of the remarkable features of the mobility and activity theme is the breadth of the expertise of our researchers. This is so critical for us trying to understand how we can improve mobility outcomes because mobility is such a multifaceted domain. We've got expertise in spinal cord injury, stroke, cognition, balance and falls, neuroscience, healthy aging, really the whole gamut that spreads the mobility spectrum. And we're really fortunate to have these researchers engaging in top-level work to improve mobility outcomes for all people. This last year was very challenging for many of us. Many research groups were sent home, experiments were delayed, but still the people in the mobility and activity theme were very productive. So from a grant perspective, we were still awarded over 15 grants that totaled just about $1.5 million. These were from Tri-Council funding sources, NSERC and CIHR, as well as other locations like the Neurotrauma Foundation, Rick Hansen Foundation. These funds will be used for basic research in mobility, also for clinical trials or community engagement initiatives, as well as how to implement best practices within a clinical setting. One of these grants was awarded to Dr. Heather McKenzie, who is a physiatrist working here at Parkwood Institute. Dr. McKenzie primarily works with patients that have had concussion or mild traumatic brain injuries, and one of the most common questions that she gets is, when will I get back to normal? So Dr. McKenzie has been awarded this grant to start developing a prognostic model that can classify patients that have had concussion or mild traumatic brain injury and classify these people as the most likely to benefit from the rapid engagement of rehab services. This would expedite these individuals' time to recovery, as well as also hopefully identify the individuals who might be most at risk for persistent symptoms over time. In terms of publications, and again, despite the worldwide pandemic, individuals within the mobility and activity theme were remarkably productive. We published over 100 peer-reviewed articles in the last year, and these were in very different types of journals, from Age and Aging to Disability and Rehab, Journal of Neurophysiology, Journal of Neuroscience, Neurobiology of Aging. Remarkably diverse types of research was done in the last year, despite the fact that many of us had to complete this research from home. One of the publications I'd like to highlight came out of Dr. Montero Dasso's lab just a few months ago, and they were in charge of a multi-site clinical trial that had the gait and cognitive assessment of individuals that had Parkinson's, mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia, as well as healthy controls. What I'm showing here on the right is a figure from their paper, and what it's showing is what's called the receiver operator characteristic curve. You don't have to be too concerned about how you generate one of these curves, but the black line that's on a 45-degree angle just shows chance discrimination. And this red line was created to show that individuals that have Alzheimer's disease have a better chance of being classified as Alzheimer patients by analyzing their gait variability, or their step-to-step time and movement variation as they walk across a censored platform. This is really, really interesting work because it shows that gait variability can be used as a marker to identify those with cognitive cortical dysfunction and can be used to identify ultimately those with Alzheimer's disease. 2020 also saw the start of the Gray Center for Mobility and Activity. This center has been established by a $7.5 million donation by William and Lynn Gray, and is being used to establish a new clinical and research hub at Parkwood that really focuses on mobility. Planning and developing a new center in a worldwide pandemic has been challenging, but despite those challenges, there are many exciting things to report. We are in the process of recruiting a chair position for the Gray Center. This person will be involved in the leadership of the center as well as run their own world-respected research program. Dr. Sue Peters will be joining the Gray Center starting June 1st. Dr. Sue Peters is a researcher that's finishing up a postdoctoral fellowship. She's primarily interested in rehabilitation after stroke. And we are also in the process of doing some major space development at Parkwood Institute. In the next number of months, we will be engaging with many stakeholders on how we can change the infrastructure of Parkwood, Maine to really facilitate a new mobility center that can really integrate clinical research, clinical care, and education to best serve the mission of our center. And that concludes my summary of what happened in 2020 within the mobility and activity theme. I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day learning about all the different types of research that happened at Parkwood over the past year. Thank you.
Good morning. This is the update for the PIR Research Day on the Cognitive Vitality and Brain Health theme. I'm Michael Borry, and these are the researchers under this theme at Parkwood Institute. Dr. Bangu has received funding from AMOSO for his orthostatic hypotension. He's also the lead investigator for the AHEAD study in people with preclinical Alzheimer's disease. Through the Cognitive Clinical Trials Group, we continue with the ADNI study funded by NIH, and we are the lead site for the Compass ND study, 30 sites across the country. We're also involved with a number of clinical trials in early Alzheimer's disease. Dr. Finger is the co-principal investigator for the GenFi study, looking at the combined investigation of clinical, MRI, genomic and epigenomic biomarkers funded by CHR. And she's also developed a collaborator on a study looking at a non-invasive early biomarker of Alzheimer's disease. She is also the lead investigator for a multi-center trial, the FOXY trial, looking at oxytocin for empathy deficits and apathy in people with frontotemporal dementia, and phase 2 will be starting this year. The Dale Crichton Brain Biobank will look at clinical history, brain, blood, CSF, and imaging in people with neurodegenerative disease and people who are concussed but are cognitively healthy. Dr. Montero Odasso has completed the recruitment for the Synergic trial, has moved on to Synergic Home and Synergic 2, funded by CHR, and is collaborating with Dr. Finger on the Gait and Balance platform using wearables at home, funded by Andre. Dr. Morrow has a randomized controlled trial looking at mixed amphetamine salts for cognitive impairment in people with multiple sclerosis, and is examining a screening tool for cognitive impairment in the MS participants in a clinic setting. She also has 2 publications, one under review. Dr. Pasternak continues to recruit participants into the Ambroxol study for treating people with Parkinson's dementia. Dr. Teasel continues with stroke rehabilitation evidence-based reviews, and also has a partnership for the Stroke Recovery Clinical Trials platform funded by Brain Canada, with the trials listed there. As well, he has a multi-site randomized controlled trial examining function in people with balance and mobility limitations. Another collaboration looking at tele-rehabilitation with aims to improve lower leg extremity post-stroke recovery. As well, he continues with reviews in brain injuries and also further evidence-based reviews in spinal cord, and is developing a predictive model for botulism toxin referral and treatment for post-stroke spasticity with collaborators. Dr. Wells is a principal investigator for 2 trials funded by Roche and Eisai in early Alzheimer's disease. And in terms of major accomplishments, Dr. Montero Odasso has recruited over 300 participants for the Synergic trial and Compass ND combined. Dr. Finger has an important publication looking at the genetic underpinnings of behavioral and neuropsychiatric disturbances in individuals with frontotemporal dementia. And Dr. Pasternak has passed the 3-quarter point recruitment for ambroxol study and now has an approved phase 2 trial in Lewy body disease. Through the CCNA, with the 30 sites across the country, we have recruited 50% of the original clinical cohort. We've also had a number of data releases and more expected later this year. Thank you.
So good morning and welcome to the 5th Parkwood Institute Research Day. And for the second year running, it's going to be different. I really miss the ability to get together in person, to explore an exciting idea with the young scientists next to their poster and the whole camaraderie of science. But there are benefits to going virtual. You don't have to be in London, Ontario to enjoy the science. And I hope today's activities are going to be shared by many researchers and partners around Canada and beyond. The backdrop of pandemic and social restrictions is also bringing an urgency to much of the research that happens at Parkwood. Our clients have been hit the hardest over the last year. The elderly, those with poorer mental health, that has reduced their resilience, those with mobility issues who've been limited to their homes now for over a year. It's not just the immediate impacts of COVID that need intensive and timely research, but the likely legacy of poor health, both physical and mental, for years to come. This pandemic is different because we haven't experienced one for over 100 years. The last one was the Spanish flu, and that's beyond living memory now. And that was the final insult after the trauma of a world war. Samuel Pepys in the 1660s took plague in his stride because it cycled back every 20 to 30 years and it was an ever-present risk. And Pepys wrote in his diary how he'd gone into Westminster to buy a new wig, but he hadn't worn it yet because it was made from human hair and he wanted to wait for any contamination to dissipate. But the pandemic is new to us and the outcomes on health bring a new urgency to research at Parkwood, to those agencies who provide the research funding and the tremendous support from our community through the St. Joseph's Healthcare Foundation. We need solutions and our researchers here have the innovation and the skills to find them. So I hope you enjoy the vibrancy of the research on display today at Parkwood. Thank you for participating.
Good morning, I'm Jody Younger, Vice President Patient Care and Quality at St. Joseph's Healthcare London. And on behalf of our senior leadership team, I'd like to welcome you this morning to our Parkwood Institute Research Day, moving toward better health, mobility, activity, and brain health. As you know, mobility and activity is a massive strategic priority for us here at St. Joseph's. So we hope that you're going to enjoy the wide range of sessions today, including our keynote presentation by Dr. McElroy and how brain health relates to physical activity, sleep, and mobility. I know that with all the screen time I've personally had during the pandemic, I am definitely noticing a correlation on the lack of moving around and how functional my brain cells feel, especially after a day of back-to-back Zoom meetings. So I think more now than ever, we have an appreciation for this. Of course, we also have 4 amazing breakout sessions that will be following our keynote. And personally, I really hope you spend some time interacting with poster presentations on your breaks. I actually really love the virtual models of poster sessions because you actually get to hear the whole poster synopsis from start to finish, and you can dive in on the details of the poster in a way that's really hard to do when you're kind of walking between posters and kind of shoulder to shoulder in a crowded poster session. So really, if you haven't tried this yet, I really encourage you. It's a great way to learn a lot of information in a really efficient and helpful learning model. And we also have a large number of our students who participate in these poster sessions who've worked really hard and I know appreciate engagement and feedback on their research. So thank you for spending some time doing that. Thank you to all of the organizers for bringing us all of the sessions today and the great work that they've done to host the meeting. And I hope that everybody learns a lot and you're energized by everything you get to hear today, even though you are on a Zoom meeting back to back. So take some time to stretch as well. Have a great day, everybody.